We now have sales minus profit, take your profit first, equals expenses. And it forces you into looking at the reality of what's going on in your business. We know where our money's going. Now we're faced with it. We have to make some decisions. Once a week, we divide the money up from the income account and we put it into these other 4 accounts and we hold it there only for that purpose. So it allows us to see, where's my money going? When you do everything by allocations, by percentage, there's always enough.
Good day, everyone. This is Dr. David Phelps of the Freedom Founders Mastermind and Dentist Freedom Blueprint podcast. Today, I have a good friend, somebody that I really respect in what she's doing in our industry, and that is Barb Stackhouse. Hi, Barb.
Hi, David. Great to be here. Thank you.
Well, great to have you. Well, you've spent a good deal of time in our industry from really, the ground up, and I respect that, but also for what you're doing to really serve our industry in an area that is oftentimes considered kind of a black hole, if I might say so. Let me give a little bit of your background. We'll jump into the topic today, but this is going to be very interesting for people because, you and I have a lot of in common with how we look at the finances of in our industry. We consider, relatively high income, and we'll talk about where's the money go. So anyway, let me give a little bit about Barb. Since 2005, Barbara Stackhouse, and she's got a whole lot of letters after her name. I know a fefew. Registered dental hygienist, master's in education. The rest of them, Barb, I don't even know what they stand for. Do you want to give me a little bit of clue?
Well, I'm trained as a traditional naturopath doctor as well. Okay. So I like the holistic side of medicine. So
perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's put it this way. You're very well educated. I'll just stop right there. That kind of covers a lot of bases. Anyway, you have helped over 400 dentists and thousands in revenue to their practice, add thousands of revenue to their practice every month, and boost profits by 5 to 10%, which we'll talk about that. That's huge. That's huge. 5 to 10% sounds like, oh, that's not much. No, it's huge. A mastery level certified profit first professional and profit advisor. We'll talk about what that means. Barbara is an expert at cutting expenses and increasing profit margins without compromising patient care. Her clients keep more money in their pockets, allowing them to fulfill their dreams for themselves and their families. Barb's extensive background in the dental industry gives her an advantage and deep understanding about the ins and outs of running a profitable, highly successful practice. Barb is passionate about helping others in their journey to wellness in the areas of both finance and health. So to your point, naturopath. When faced with her own health crisis with an autoimmune disorder, she focused on traditional naturopathic training and became a board certified complementary and alternative health practitioner. I guess I could have taken that sentence and put it together with the other ones, but I didn't tie it together. So now I'm clued in. Now I'm educated to a new level. Anyway, Barb, you're doing some great work, and I also want to just make mention right off the bat because you've got a new book that just came out this year, and thank you for sending me one. It's Profit First for Dentists. We'll talk about Profit First. I know that the founder of this great philosophy, which is mutual friend Mike Michalowicz, who really kind of shattered the world with going from traditional GAAP accounting to Profit First. Do you want to just start there and maybe talk about kind of the reason why accounting and finance and profit in business and practice is just, again, like I said, kind of a black hole. We tend to kind of look at what's in the bank account, if we can pay the overhead and put away the money for taxes and and then if we have something we can put in retirement, but it's up and down, it's volatile, and it just, anyway, it's a bad system. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I think the core piece of this, and Mike Michalowicz's genius for figuring this out, is we've been waiting for the leftovers for our profit. And this is how businesses have typically run throughout history. You collect, you have sales, you collect the money, you pay all the expenses, you pay your employees and all the things that the money goes out, right? Including debt payments and all of that. And then whatever is left over, you get to take home or put in your own pocket. But the problem is there just never seems to be any more left over, any extra. And so Mike came up with this idea to flip the equation. So instead of having sales minus expenses equals profit, we now have sales minus profit, take your profit first, equals expenses. And it forces you into looking at the reality of what's going on in your business. And you mentioned GAAP, and I just want to mention that really quick because GAAP has been around since the early, I'd say 1920s, 30s, and it was created by the government for all CPAs to have a uniform way of reporting, because there was a lot of shady stuff going on with money, and they wanted their money, right?
Sure.
So they created this, and the basic formula of GAAP is just what I said, what we've been doing for years: the sales minus expenses equals profit. So we're entrenched in that, and we still have to do that. So what I want to say is your CPA can do something totally different. They can still keep doing GAAP to keep you legal with the government. Right. But the whole idea behind this book, and my passion, is to help dentists know and understand their own numbers from a profit first perspective, and really and truly be able to increase that profit and know where their money is going. I think the black hole that you talked about is, it's staying in that gap where we don't know what's going on. That's the black hole. When we implement profit first, it's like the light bulb coming on, right? Now we know where our money's going. Now we're faced with it. We have to make some decisions.
So what are some of the core principles of profit first? What's the essence of the setup? How do we make this new equation, sales minus profit equals expenses? How do we actually make that work within our practice?
Right. So we use something called bank balance accounting. And all that means is that we set up some additional bank accounts. So all of that sales, the first part of the equation, all of that money flows into what we call an income account, but we don't pay any bills from that account. Okay. We don't pay any bills from that account. That account just holds the money. Okay. Then once a week, we allocate money by percentage to 4 other accounts. And I think one of the biggest hangups that dentists have in implementing profit first, and I try my best to explain it in the book, but it's one of those things that, if you're not a numbers person, it can seem daunting, is what should my percentages be? If I'm going to allocate to profit, if I'm going to allocate to an owner's comp account, if I'm going to allocate to a tax account, if I'm going to allocate to an operating expense account, well, what should my percentages be? I think that's the biggest question. But that's what happens. Once a week, we divide the money up from the income account and we put it into these other 4 accounts, and we hold it there only for that purpose. So it'll, again, allows us to see, where's my money going? What is the purpose for that money? You already have your taxes, by having a tax account, right. Having that set aside, but knowing, that your business is going to pay your income tax now.
Yes.
It's not withholding it out of your check. Yeah, that still happens, but your business now funds that, which is huge.
Oh yeah. I was going to say, that's the best feeling in the world. Nobody likes to pay taxes, but the worst kind of taxes to pay are taxes you weren't prepared to pay.
Exactly.
And how many times, I know you hear it, but I hear it, is people are just rocking along and they're having a pretty good year. They think things are going great. And then out of the blue comes their CPA and says, oh, by the way, you need to write a check for this amount. And it's, about 4 or 5 times, maybe more, what they anticipated. It's like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
How did that happen? And that really is really just to be short about it, it's a bummer. I mean that
is a bummer.
It really deflates you, because all of a sudden the plans you had for whatever you're going to do with that additional capital you thought was there, now you're scrambling to try to, where am I going to find the money to go down pay the tax? So that's just one issue, the taxes. But to your point, it's to have this set up so you don't worry about that anymore. It's the money is there. Still not fun to write the check, but at least it's not that painfulness to write the check.
Yeah. I mean, I hear from dentists when I talk with them, that scenario you were just talking about at the end of the year, worrying about what am I going to have to pay in taxes, and thinking that they have set aside some money or that there's enough in their account, right? And then they get that surprise from the CPA and they say, well, why? I don't have that money sitting around. Where is it? You're saying I'm this profitable, but
right.
Where's that money? And, just in the book, again, I go back to try to explain how that happens. And it especially happens when you have debt, because all of that principal that you pay off when you're paying down your debt,
taxable.
is taxable.
Yes, people forget
And
that.
yes. And, many times I work with a dentist and they're like, I just don't want to have debt anymore. I'm struggling with debt. I want, I want a plan to pay down debt. And that's a very noble plan, right? But if we don't plan for the taxes with it,
Yes.
then we've really done a disservice. So it's just understanding the give and take and how that all works. And we can set all of that up using the profit first system. So there's those 5 core accounts. We do other accounts as needed. I mean, I have some doctors with a couple extra accounts. I call that ninja profit first. We get into some other things, and you can set some goals and make it happen by having those bank accounts. It's a behavioral system. I think that's the key to it, is that once a week, you're going to take that money and you're going to move it. You're literally going to get online and you're going to transfer that money from one account to another. And then you're not going to touch it there. You're only going to use it for that intended purpose. And that's the behavior part. And there's something mental that just kind of clicks, right? Or hopefully it does.
So some of the accounts, operating expense, taxes are definitely obligations that have to get paid. So, but kind of back to your first kind of premise that sometimes the challenge for a lot of docs who want to try this out and set it up is, how much should be profit, how much should be owner's comp, and sure, I'd like it to be as much as possible, but I'm trying to be realistic. Well, I'm X profitable now, and I'd like that to be bigger, or I know my expenses have to be paid. So how do you keep from trying to still reverse engineering the whole thing and going, even though I'm going to do profit first, but I got to make sure I put enough money in the expenses. Is it just because you started with some allocations, some percentages? Now you can change those and modify.
Absolutely.
Of course. Yes. But you just got to say, it's just a starting point.
You do. And what I teach is, go back for your last year and look at your numbers. Even though you weren't allocating to these 4 accounts, you could go back and find those numbers if you dig deep enough. They're not always super easy to find. Yeah. But you could. Okay. And imagine you had, those 4 buckets and you were going to put, okay, did I save any money last year? Did I set aside any profit? Sometimes that's a 0 bucket, a lot of times. What did I pay myself? And when I say that, like, what did you take home? This doesn't include your taxes. Like, what did you actually take home? And it forces you to kind of look at that. Then, okay, what did I pay the government in taxes? What was my total for the year? And then, what were my operating expenses? And I think one of the things that gets forgotten when we talk about operating expenses, because it doesn't show up on the P&L, is loan payments. And yet those come around pretty regular every month. And, here we have all this money flowing out of the practice to pay these bills, and yet it doesn't show up. And so doctors will look at the bottom of their P&L and say, well, where's this? Well, it's not there, but if we were doing it in profit first, it would be included in the operating expense. So you just go with that and you figure out what those percentages were, and, in the past, and okay, I could surely do that this year. What if I could just change, 1% or 2%? What if I could just put 2% in my profit account and I could reduce my operating expense by 2%, keep the other the same? That would be a step in the right direction. So we just look at it from a different way. And it's amazing when there's less money in the account. The whole premise is when there's less money in the account, we actually do spend less. And again, that's a behavioral thing. Mike talks about Parkinson's law in his book, and I talk about it in my book. And, the demand for something expands to match its supply, and vice versa. So the more money you have in your account, we all do this. When we want to make a purchase, we want to go take a CE course, we want to pay the bills. What do? We go look at our bank account and see, do I have the money to do that? And if you want to pay bills, sometimes you'll sit down and you'll pay bills, get everything paid. And then all of a sudden it's like payroll's coming again and you're scrambling to get money in the account to meet payroll. This takes all the guesswork out of that. I love it. And I can definitely tell you it works.
Seems to me, Barb, that it would also take away the tendency for doctors to use their practice as an ATM.
Yeah.
In other words, like I said,
Yep.
well, there's money there and I just need to, I'm just going to like borrow it out short term to go do whatever. And of course, that's again, a bad behavior. Or again, I'm not trying to put anything on spouses because there's a lot of spouses that are way more financially disciplined than sometimes the one who's doing the actual technical work. So please understand, spouses, I'm not talking about you as a group, but there is sometimes a tendency I hear doctors say, my wife, who may or may not work in a practice, says, you produce so much money in the practice. I don't understand why we can't have and again, there's all kinds of reasons for the maybe dysfunction there in a family's environment. But it seems to me that this way, by setting up the separate accounts and doing the allocations right out of the gate and not keeping a pile of money in this one account where it could become accessed, or hey, we've got that money there, let's go use it for whatever we want to use it for.
Right.
It would take that tendency away. Is that true?
It does. It absolutely does. When you do everything by allocations, by percentage, there's always enough. That's what I love about it.
If you enjoyed watching or learning from this video, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel for more content. If you have a question about any of my content or this specific video, just please leave a comment down below. And as always, stay focused on your freedom. I'll see you next time.